Hey everybody, today we have Joshua Warr here, and he's a professional actor. We're very excited to have him chat a little bit about how he does his marketing and promoting of himself. And, a lot of people kind of feel like, oh, promoting, it's so like, it's uncomfortable, it's weird and, not natural. But there's ways that lots of actors find to actually make it feel comfortable and, they connect. They think of it as more like connecting with people. And, so I'd love to chat with you about that. I'm very appreciative for you being here. Yeah, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So I moved to New York about 13 years ago as an actor and a modern dancer, totally crazy background. And around 2012, I transitioned into directing. So a lot of this today will be kind of coming from both the perspective of me as a professional actor, but me also as a professional director.
That's awesome. I'm very excited to hear from a director's perspective as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the past 7 years, I've worn the director hat more than I've worn the actor hat. So it's been fun to kind of, I guess, put that hat on as somebody who had spent so much time acting. And I've really, really fallen in love with it. So, I mean, that's where I'm at today. I'm mostly directing. I still have my signed representation as an actor. I still work as an actor. I'm currently doing a show now, but yeah, I guess I've become one of those actor, director, New York types.
Tell us a little bit about that transition. Like, how did that actually happen? And also, how do you feel like being a director is helpful for your acting career?
It started because I had been working with directors in some shows, and I just they weren't trained actors, or they weren't speaking to actors with acting terminology. I mean, actors have a vocabulary that we use. Trained actors have a vocabulary that we use, and it makes the process of creating behavior and creating a character and building a show incredibly a lot easier than if we didn't have vocabulary. So I kind of just started going, I can do this. Like, I can do this. Like, I feel I can speak to actors in a certain way to further their process with building the show with me. And so in 2012, I had a group of friends who were doing a online a Kickstarter. I think it was a Kickstarter to produce this 1 week run of Stephen Belber's Tape. Tape was eventually made into a film with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. A really crazy, crazy story that deals with rape allegations and friendship and blackmail and violence. And so I thought, this is the great first opportunity to jump into directing with this incredible theme. So I reached out, and they were looking for a director, and I reached out and I said, listen, I really want to throw my hat in the ring. So we went out for coffee, and they made me break down my entire vision for how I would direct this, which I was not ready for. It's like, oh, these are my friends. They know I'm an actor. They know I'm a good actor. Like, whatever, this is going to be really, really easy. But then, we all kind of nerded out, as I call it, which is like when a bunch of actors just start talking acting and process and craft and actions and what we want to achieve in life and goals and stuff. So the interview went really, really well, and then I ended up booking that. And so, like I said, it was a quick. I think we rehearsed for 3 weeks, and then we had a 1 week run at the now defunct Abingdon Theater company, which was on 36th. I think the Tank is now in that building, and Abingdon has moved elsewhere. But it was in the Dorothy Strelson, this tiny little black box that was in the round. And so it takes place inside of a hotel room, and my design team basically built this hotel room around the audience. So the audience was inside that hotel room with these 3 actors while a lot of intensity was happening. And I realized I loved it. I mean, I guess there's the kind of ego of it. I love the control. I love having my vision that comes to life. But also, even more than that, I just love working with actors, and I love watching actors discover behavior and discover intention and illuminate humanity and I love to watch their craft happen in the rehearsal room. And so I just said, this is it. I feel like, my calling in life is the arts, right? I'm very, very happy to be in this industry. And whatever that journey is for me, I will be happy there. Like I said, I was a modern dancer. I went to Korea. I traveled the world. I came to New York. I studied acting. Now and then I had some incredible jobs. I've been on television, and then here I am directing. And so I'm just kind of taking it all with a grain of salt and just putting in my all to everything that I do.
Awesome. Cool. What would you say are like one or two of your biggest accomplishments that you've had to date? You could talk a little bit about the directing, but if we focus mostly on the acting, what would you say they are from
that? In 2014 and 15, I booked 2 major television shows, which was really a great opportunity. I was on Law and Order SVU, so I got my official New York actor card, right? I mean, once you get on one of those Law and Order shows, you're officially a New York actor. And then after that, and I was in a scene with Ice-T, which is like the coolest thing in the world. He's wild. And it was like a full circle moment. In 2009, I'd been working at this Russian restaurant, this like Russian Cuban fusion restaurant. And Ice-T was at my table one night. So here I am in 2009 serving Ice-T and his wife Coco drinks and food. And then in 2014, getting to act alongside of him. So that's humbling. That's a wake up call. And then in 2015, I booked The Americans. And I played Matthew Rhys's character at age 19, kind of going through some KBG training, operative stuff. And I got to have simulated sex with a prostitute on national television. So listen, you never know what these jobs are going to be. So I feel like those are 2 of my biggest accomplishments. In 2011, and I want to say 14 or 15, I was part of a 2-season LGBTQ web series called Hunting Season, based on a blog and based on real life people. That was with John Marcus, who had producer ties to Party Monster and a lot of these fun LGBTQ movies. So I guess those are my biggest accomplishments as an actor to date. And we're still trying to do more.
Nice. A lot of actors sort of like wonder, especially about like getting roles on television. And you talked about the very first TV roles that you got. What do you think like contributed most to you getting them? A lot of actors will say like, oh, well, I got lucky and I'm fortunate for it. And that's definitely true, but there's also certain things usually, because if you're just sitting around all day doing nothing, you probably wouldn't have gotten those. So I'd love to hear a little bit about like, what do you think most contributed to you getting actually your first television gig?
So I have representation, and that played a really crucial role in me landing at least auditions for TV gigs. Those casting agencies are really, really hard to get into. So when you have somebody who has a reputation that's fighting for you to get in the door, that helps. The Law and Order role was, they were looking for somebody to play a cross-dresser. And I can't remember if the role was trans or if it was just cross-dressing. It was essentially, a streetwalker. And I, in my very eclectic background and career, have done a lot of drag. And so I have, I also tend to kind of look like a woman when I'm in drag. So I went into this casting agency down. They cast out of Chelsea Piers downtown. So I went, which is Chelsea Piers is like also a very, very public spot. A lot of the Law and Order studios are there. They film there and then in the surrounding areas. But here I'm walking in to a major recreational center, going through security, dressed as like a full-on woman streetwalker at like noon on like a Tuesday. So I went and I did the audition, and they were like, you're a little bit too believable. We need you to scale this back. So I basically threw, I got a call back. I threw on, I think, foundation, mascara, and like a wig. I looked tragic. I like let my like hairy chest out, and it was the most tragic thing in the entire world. Now I did not get that audition, but they were so impressed with kind of my dedication to it. I had a great time with the casting director, so they ended up writing a role in for me. So that was a really, really great moment to have your manager call you and say, listen, you didn't get it, but they liked you, so they're writing you a couple lines so you can at least hire you. So I want to say some dedication to craft is what helped me get that, but also, my management team working to get me in the door and to make sure that I'm getting seen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, yes, it's definitely really important, especially for film and television, having an agent, having representation, but there are certain things that go into it. And in this case, you sort of like having this unique skill set in a sense of being able to dress in drag and being like you went like perfectly with it, you committed to it. And then when they asked you for the callback, you completely took the direction. So you seemed easy to work with, and you were probably very friendly with them and all of that. And it all kind of combined, and they are, people do get impressed from time to time. And I think the fact that this story like really shows how important it is to have something unique, or like, something that you're able to do to kind of set yourself apart from the competition to make yourself memorable. So that's really
adaptation in this industry is so important. And the minute you lose that, you lose this industry. You have to be, you have to be malleable. You have to work with them.
So now I know that, you do a lot of directing work now, and I'm interested in two kind of questions here, because there's a lot of actors who are listening to this who probably don't do any directing or haven't done any. So my first part is like, would you recommend that actors try directing things or making some of their own projects to at bare minimum learn, at most maybe, get more connections with people, and then alongside with that, besides that itself, like, were there other things that you kind of have done that have sort of like contributed to moving your acting career forward?
Okay, so the first question, I'm not sure I would suggest everyone go into directing. Directing's all about a clear vision. So if it's really just like I want to try this out, it gets sticky, because you're working with people who are really depending on you. I feel like when, I was a choreographer in college, and so I knew that I loved direction. I knew that I loved to be in the kind of creative hot seat, the kind of front seat driver role. So it was a seamless transition into directing, because I had a lot of experience working with performers and kind of molding, sculpting, and crafting. But it's not for everybody. I mean, not how many shows do we see in our lifetime where we're like, what is happening on this stage? Like, what is going on? There's no vision. These actors are terrible. I have an incredible training background with Maggie Flanagan. Maggie Flanagan is a master teacher in the Meisner technique. She's been in New York since the 70s. And Maggie has trained a lot of incredible people, including the now Oscar-winning Sam Rockwell. So, I studied with Maggie and then trained, then I worked with her as her executive assistant. So for years, I was listening to this woman, she was coaching movie stars. A lot of incredible people came through there. John Leguizamo, Leslie Bibb. There's a lot of these really incredible people. And I started listening, and I was like, okay, I feel like I understand what it means to help somebody bring to life a role. So no, I mean, if this is their calling, by all means, find any way you can get into directing. You know, for me, it was, I knew I wanted to continue kind of being this leader of a band. So yeah, I guess if you're interested in it, go for it, because it's a great learning curve. It's a great learning experience. Don't try to take any jobs from me, but absolutely go for it. And then the second, I feel like directing has made me a more specific actor, because you're in the rehearsal room, you're trying things out, but the director's there to kind of keep you in check, right? You're a little too far over here. I need you to come back here. Or you're not really being specific enough, or I don't really know what you're trying to achieve here. Or I don't know what this person means to you. So because I'm constantly asking directors to dig deep into some of these kind of crucial nerdy actor questions, when I then get work, I'm kind of in my head going, okay, what would I be asking my actors to do? What would I be asking of them, and how do I apply that? I still very much coach. I still very much work with people on roles. So even though I feel I'm on track, it doesn't always happen. And that's, you know, you need somebody from the outside to go, all right, you're like 98% there, or you're not close at all, right? So we're going to get you there with some of these adjustments, these suggestions, and then go rock it out in the audition room.
Yeah. So in general, it seems like you definitely don't recommend that an actor try to get into directing seriously if they're not passionate about it, but maybe you do recommend that they learn a little bit about directing, just so that they can kind of see from the other perspective what it's like.
Listen, it's like when you go to a doctor, and you're asking this doctor questions, and you're like, I don't feel well, these are my ailments, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard of these things. You would never trust that doctor within an inch of your life. To be at the top of your game, to be the cream of the crop, to be somebody who wants success and to achieve that, right? Whatever success means, it could just mean booking a job and having a steady paycheck. We don't all need to be in film and television and on Broadway, although it's great money. We're just happy creating life. And so I feel like no matter what, you should know your industry. You should know the actors around you. You should know the directors around you. You should know key producers. You should know casting directors. You should know people in your industry that are working. So you are well informed, because a well informed actor is it's crucial. You know, if you're in an audition room and the casting director's like, well, you know what, I want you to act like, I want you to like maybe pull some of this from this movie, and you're like, I have no idea what that movie is. or you're like, hey, do you remember like okay, perfect example. I'll talk about Sam Rockwell again because I just referenced him. He says in an interview, when he was doing Iron Man, he chose to do a really, really tan look because he wanted to look like George Hamilton. I think it's George Hamilton. And like, that's a really smart actor, right? That somebody's like, okay, I'm going to mold my performance and mold my look around another, recognizable character in this industry. Things like that. You should absolutely, acting is like wearing a tool belt, and you have lots of different tools, and you need to be ready to pull these tools out. So yeah, knowing who's in your industry, and knowing who the key players are, and knowing who you want to go after, and know who inspires you. That stuff makes a huge difference to your career. It's magnanimous.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I mean, staying on top of everything and really taking it seriously, because there's so many people out there just in general, not just actors, who, they want to be recognized, or they want jobs. Like, there was a perfect example. I'm on the newsletter of a guy, Ramit Sethi, who's like, teaches business and finance stuff. And it was funny. He sent out an email saying, I recently had a conversation with somebody who complained to me that no one was buying their online course. And he emailed back and he said, well, what's the most recent online course that you bought from somebody? And the person's like, well, I've never bought an online course from anybody. And he's like, well, how do you expect other people to like want to buy your course if you're not even willing to pay or learn from other people who already know this stuff? And so it's
Yeah.
kind of the same way, like actors are, you know, there's books out there. I mean, you know, how to become a working, sorry, give me 1 second. There's things like how to become a working actor or ask an agent. I mean, there's these books. I've had the opportunity to interview some of the people who've written them, and I mean, these are amazing resources. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to. It seems boring. It's all business. I'm not going to read it. But it's like the more informed that you are, like knowledge. They say knowledge is power, and if you spend the time doing that or learning or take a directing class just to learn what it's like being on the other side. You don't have to necessarily go into it, but having that understanding of things from that other perspective is so
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially in this industry when most of the power is taken away from us. Knowledge is power. Just to be on top of your game. If you're not, why are you in this business? If you're not on the top of your game of any business, why are you in that industry? It's like I always say, like, complacency is boring to me. I love a Will Smith quote: "To be realistic is to be mediocre." It's not. I'm like, why are you doing this? You're clearly doing this for all the wrong reasons. If you don't thrive and get off from all of this incredible, industry power around us.
Yeah, it's like if you don't want to be recognized as number one for whatever you're doing, that's sort of like doing a disservice to the people who are going to hire you. Like, you don't have to be like the number one actor in the world, but what I'm saying is like number one at being you and authentically like playing your brand and knowing everything you can about your craft. If you're not willing to actually do that and you just kind of want to be like a mediocre actor, you shouldn't even be spending your time going out there for jobs, because the people who are hiring you are sort of getting the short end of the stick because you don't really care that much.
It's a waste of time. It's a huge waste of time.
Yeah. Well, that was, I mean, I definitely appreciate you talking about that, because that's something that we haven't really covered much in the interviews yet, and I think it's really important. So awesome. I'd like to move in now to I mean, I know that you're very much focused right now on the directing side, but coming back to acting, you definitely still do acting work. And I just like if you're open to talking about 1 or 2 goals that you have related to acting and any specific steps that you're sort of like taking to move in that direction.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I will never turn down an acting job. And a lot of people often ask me, what do you prefer more? And I feel like it's like wearing 2 different kinds of suits of armor, right? When I'm in my acting suit of armor, I love everything about it. When I'm in my directing suit of armor, I love everything about it. They're very, very different muscles to work out. I certainly miss acting a lot. I wish I were being hired more. I wish that, that there were people out there that I'm looking at being like, I can do exactly that. Why am I not getting called in for these? But like I said, complacency is boring. So I'm not going to sit around and wait for a job. I'm going to create kind of my own pathway. So, I moved to New York to do Broadway. I've always wanted to be on Broadway. If I could be the male Laurie Metcalf and like be in every season of every Broadway season, that would thrill me. I want to be in a play on Broadway. I moved to New York wanting to be in a musical on Broadway. I still will happily do that, but I think I really want to be in a play, in an incredible play with an incredible director, and live out that fantasy of mine. I will not stop until the day I die. I joke I want to be in an action film a lot, because I really do. I go watch these action films. I'm like, I want to do that. Excuse me. I want to do I want a stunt double. Game of Thrones, great opportunity. I was like, I want to be in Game of Thrones. I'm terrible at accents. But I would say right now my goals are to be in a feature film, and then to act in a play on Broadway. I feel like those are some pretty attainable yet lofty goals that keep me working towards that.
And what do you feel like are some important steps that you would like to take to actually move in that direction?
So again, this kind of, this goes back to the fact that I am fortunate enough to have representation who are sending, who are sending my things out. The kind of unfortunate part of that is, either my directing or, like I said, I'm doing this Golden Girl show right now. So some of those things get in the way of auditions. And so I've had to turn some things down because I'm already working and I'm already doing something on my own. So the representation takes care of a lot of that for me. But again, it goes back to complacency. You still have to be, checking in with the industry and making sure that you're, going on to Actors Access and you're going on to Playbill and you're checking out what castings are there and you're looking at who's hiring and, you're talking to your friends. If somebody went in for something that you feel you're really, really good for, or if they are going in for something you feel you're really, really good for, call up your representation and say, hey, did you submit me to this? Oh, you did? Can you follow up? Or, oh, you didn't? Can you submit me? Can you try to get me in that room?
I think it's good that you talk about, like, I know that I'm asking you questions about acting and stuff, but, you are very much focused on the directing side of things. And I think it's really important for actors to think about where their focus is and make sure that they're okay with picking one thing. Sometimes people like, I want to do the acting so much, but I also want to do the directing, or I also have this other thing going on. And so they tend to like split their focus amongst like 3 or 4 different things. And then it kind of gets like a little bit too crazy. In your case, it sounds like you're very much focused on the directing and you're okay with letting the acting side kind of like, your agent is helping you and taking care of that, but that like right now is not my time to really like spend all my time and worry so much about that because I'm focused here. And a lot of actors, if they split their focus up too much, it can become problematic.
Yeah, if you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to really have an instrument, or at least a well-tuned instrument. So for me, like I said, I'm really happy wearing the director hat, and I started my own company, so I produce my own work, and I've been directing my own stuff for a couple of years now. So a lot of it has taken away from the acting side, and I'm still in the industry, I'm still creating art, and I'm still making theater happen. So I'm very satisfied with that. But absolutely, it's you can't have your cake and eat it all in this business until you reach a certain point. Like there are working director actors like Joe Mantello on Broadway. He'll go and he directs Wicked. And then, he'll go and he'll be in Normal Heart. And then he'll direct this play, and then he'll, go be in the revival of Glass Menagerie. I mean, he's somebody who can go back and forth and kind of wear the both hats, but he's also, he's a huge name by now.
Yeah, when he wasn't, he probably had to pick one to focus on.
Yeah. So it's like, it's simple for him because they're like, oh, we want Joe, we're going to get Joe. And Joe's like, great, I'm over here living my fantasies and living my dreams. But I think until you get to a certain point, it's all or nothing. There's so much. This is an oversaturated business, and that's not a secret. Everyone wants to be famous, and that is hard on the industry, and it's hard on actors who are like, listen, I just want to work. So when you've got Karen on this side and Frank on this side, who were like, we want to be celebrities. And you're just there going like, I just want to work. I just want to be an actor, and I want to make people think, and I want to challenge perceptions, and I want to make people feel good about themselves when leaving a theater or a film, and I want to inspire, like there's a lot of junk in this industry, a lot of people that don't really deserve to be here. And that are still here. And until they're weeded out, you're fighting through a lot of muck. So, it's important. It's important that you kind of just focus on what that is. If you're an actor, take class. take a lot of classes, study with people that inspire you, do your research. There's a lot of not good courses and programs and teachers and schools out there. Do your research and make sure that these people are reputable, that they've been in the business, that they've worked with people that are doing exciting things, because when you surround yourself with the best, you will eventually join that parade.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, who you surround yourself with is so important to think about. And I would say, to add on to that even if you can't physically surround yourself with people yet, and you're not at that point, be aware of the podcasts that you're listening to, or the YouTube videos that you're watching, or the audiobooks you're listening to, and think like, who is it who I'm listening to right now who's giving me advice? Am I actually surrounding myself with the right information and people digitally, even if they're not there in person?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It goes back to the research part. If you're a young actor in like Wyoming and you're like, well, I'm not like these New York actors who can just go out and hang out, with famous people or well-established people, then that's when the internet becomes your best friend. Do the research, know everything about everybody you can get your hands on, and fill your brain with the most incredible knowledge. And then, one day, I'm from a small town in upstate New York, Potsdam, New York, and Potsdam is its own cultural epicenter in the North Country, but it's far away from Hollywood and it's far away from New York. But I would spend every day on playbill.com researching theaters and researching shows and researching actors, researching creative teams, and then what actors have done other shows, and I got to see you in this, and then I moved to New York and I started going to some of these industry parties, and I started meeting some of these people that I had spent my teenage years researching, and it was a really, really great opportunity, and a great experience to kind of be in this room with these people that a lot about, but like you can't be creepy. You can't be like, you're on my bedroom wall. You can't do that. I met BD Wong at the opening night party for Grey Gardens, and BD was in the revival of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, playing Linus. And in high school, I think it was the 8th grade, I played Linus in our very stripped down version of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And I remember being like, I played Linus. And he was like, you're so weird. Like he was like, I mean, he didn't say that, but I shook his hand. He's like, your hands are freezing, because I was holding a gin and tonic. And I was like, it's the gin and tonic. And I just ran away. And eventually I had to really check myself, because I mean, he'll never remember that interaction. But, it was important for me that I appear like a peer, of these people, versus kind of like a crazed fanatic wannabe actor or, whatever. These are humans, and we can't, that's the great thing about New York, that I feel like you hear a lot that's not like LA. In LA, kind of everyone is this kind of product machine. So people like to get obsessed with celebrity, but in New York, everyone's really, really chill. So you have to be chill. Meet these people. What I used to love to do? Go to the stage door, and you go to the stage door and you talk to these actors and you get their autographs, and then all these years later, I met some people who I've met at the stage door, and I'm like, when I was 17, you signed my playbill of Jekyll and Hyde, and I just wanted to let you know, all these years later, your words of encouragement are still in my head, and now I'm in New York and I'm pursuing this career, and I just want to, thank you for your artistry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's definitely okay, like if it's the first or second time that you're going to an event and you kind of mess up like that. But the real thing that's important is that if an actor goes to events or has the opportunity to meet these people on a consistent basis and keeps on putting them in that place, they'll eventually, after like 1 or 2 times, hopefully get like comfortable and not be like that crazed fanatic like you're saying. But it is important to actually consistently go. And so I'd like to ask you, do you have suggestions besides going and meeting people at the stage door, but like where can, say, a new actor or someone who's like not well connected or doesn't even have representation yet, are there networking events or different places where they can go to meet people who are like sort of at a higher level, maybe not like celebrities or whatever, but like a higher level good people to help them?
You want to get actors in New York, you want to get affiliated with acting organizations and companies around the city. So, for example, EST, Ensemble Studio Theater, has their like Sunday, I think once a month they do a brunch. That's, you pay to go to this brunch, and then you get to kind of mingle with up and coming directors and up and coming actors and up and coming playwrights and people that are working professionally in this business. There are make friends with people who work in Broadway shows. I just went to the Tony party for the Cher show on Broadway. And I got to watch the Tonys next to Emily Skinner, who I worshipped when I was growing up. You never know who's going to be in a room. You want to get to know as many people as possible. And take classes. Classes are a huge thing. And I don't just mean acting classes. Sign up for casting director classes. Sign up for agent seminars. For the longest time, I really didn't like these things because it's like you're paying to play and like these people are making money off of you. But there are a lot of success stories out of that where one of my dear friends, Simone, took a voiceover class with a casting director, and he was like, listen, I see a lot in you. And she's now booking major work off of that. So it's a payoff. It costs money, but not everything costs money. Like I said, meet people, befriend people. Don't be a weirdo that's just trying to be an opportunist. We're all humans. We're all working, at various levels in this industry. So it's important to like I said, be human, be normal, don't be a creep. And search out people you want to work with and become friends with them. So when that time comes that you're like, hey, can you come? Do you want to come see this play that I'm in? They're like, oh, this is a level head person. I love my previous chats with them. I'll totally go support this. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, there's something here. I want to introduce you to this person, or this person. So seminars, classes, but also beware. You got to do your research because there's a lot of people trying to do classes and seminars that's really just taking your money. If people aren't booking work out of this and it's noticeable, like, IMDb Pro is a great tool for actors because you can see whose people's representation is. And then, you can do your research on, okay, well, if this person is represented by them, what have they done? Again, it goes back to research. It goes back to just be in control of your career as much as you can.
Yeah, it's good advice. I mean, I think in general that most actors will find that if they're consistently going to free networking events or free classes, I mean, you can learn things there, but the second that you go to something that costs money, especially if it's like more than like $40 or $50, it suddenly cuts out all of the actors who are, and all the people who aren't really like serious about their career. And so just by paying some money, you can, get in the door to events that actually make a difference, that will let you network with people who take their career more seriously. So it's good advice. I appreciate you talking a little bit about like where actors can find these things. The stage door idea is really, really good. A lot of people don't think about that, and you can meet some really cool people doing that.
Yeah, because then, I've met a lot of incredible people, and then when they're in a show and I've maintained some kind of level of friendship and kindness, when they're in a show, I'm like, hey, I'm coming to support you guys, and then they're like, hey, I put your name on the stage door list, and now, you're going backstage to see these people, and then you're meeting their cast mates, and then you're meeting people involved in, with this industry, and you're getting tours of things, and it's all, and also if you're not, it's all fun. You're supposed to be having fun. You know, I often say we forget that we are adults playing dress up a lot of the times. And the minute you forget that, you kind of lost your sense of belonging. And that may be a bold statement to say, but you know, we play dress up. We're adults who still dress up, you know, for our career and put on makeup. You know, I'm putting on 4-inch heels, tights, and all 2 hours worth of makeup to play Blanche Devereaux. So I can't lose sight of the the irony, but also the humor in that. I am an adult who plays dress up. So be a human. Let your personality shine through. And don't be afraid to mess up. You know, like if I was afraid to mess up, I wouldn't have been a weirdo to BD Wong. You know, and then all these years later, I wouldn't have the story. It's when, you know, you start to get a little rough with, you know, like, you know, I say, if you want to work with somebody, if you have a manager you want to, and I don't know if I'm skipping ahead, but I'll talk about this as it's on my head.
Yeah.
If you want to work with a certain manager, or you want to work with an agent, or if you have a casting director that you really, really want to be seen by, lightly stalk them. Okay. And I don't mean creepily stalk them, but for my manager, I courted him for about a year before he signed me. And throughout that year, I would, you know, if I reshot my headshot, I'd take him out for coffee and be like, you know, I'd spend 30 minutes talking about, you know, New York and the weather and I don't know, a sports team that I didn't know anything about. And then right at the end, I kind of slide my new headshot and be like, oh, by the way, I reshot my headshot. I figured you should have it just in case, you know. You know, and then about after a year of kind of these little coffee and tea dates, he had a space for me and he signed me, and it was hard work, but it was, you know, you put in the effort, you reap the benefits, kind of thing. And so it goes across the board for everything. When you do your research and you find people you connect to in this industry, reach out, be like, I really want to work with you. And, you know, when that casting director books you something, send them a gift. You know, I sent both the Americans and Law and Order gifts when they, you know, when I got these jobs, because it meant a lot to me. They took a chance on me. So, you know, you have to be human. You have to realize that this is, yes, it's a game of chess, not Battleship. It's a game of chess. It's all about, you know, strategic moves. But if you're not a human doing this, you come off as a robot. And I'll tell you, as a director, I don't want to work with a robot. I want to work with somebody who feels organic. You know, as even an actor, I want to work opposite somebody who feels organic, you know?
That leads to my question on auditioning. And I was going to say, like, because you're a film director, what would you say are like a couple things that might be valuable for actors to hear, you know, on audition technique or tips?
So I am mostly a theater director. I have directed film, and I'm getting into a lot of film these days, and making my own stuff. But I'm mostly a theater director, which means you sit through hundreds of auditions, people doing monologues that you've heard a dozen times, or, you know, you're sending out sides and you've got 50 people reading the exact same sides. And so it's a lot of hard work sitting behind that desk sometimes, but, or that table. But my advice for auditioning is nobody wants to work with a desperate actor. And that goes to myself. I have to check myself a lot. The minute I feel desperate for a gig or a job, I've lost that job. You have to have fun. Again, we are adults playing dress up. We're adults playing imaginary friends. We're talking to walls. A lot of the times we're talking to nobody. You ride the subway in New York and you see lots of actors just kind of mumbling to themselves. Like that's, you know, we're wacko. We're cuckoo, but nobody wants the desperation. You know, as a director, I want somebody who is alive in their work. I want somebody who is having fun with the material, and I want somebody who is taking chances with really exciting acting choices. And all of that kind of creates this organic environment in the audition room that allows me to see how somebody works, somebody's personality, how they come across to strangers. And, you know, and that shows me how badly they want it. They don't have to be desperate to show me how badly they want it. They have to do good work in the room. And also, get off book. There's no excuse. Get off book. If you're holding your damn script and you know you're referencing it, you may be great, but you then put yourself in like a second category, because there's going to be somebody who's also great, who's fully memorized and off book. And if that means you don't sleep, that means you don't sleep. I have a friend in college who used to say, she's an artist, and she's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know, like I hope we all live amazingly long lives, but while we're here, put in the work, put in the time, come ready to have some fun and play, make some interesting choices, and you'll see the rapport that you have in that room is going to be so beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, I think it's so important as well because you know, I do some filmmaking work too, and just when actors come in and they're looking at their scripts, I mean, obviously, like some actors, like looking at it the whole time, they're immediately out. But the ones who are referencing the script and stuff, it tells me as a filmmaker that they don't care as much about my project as the person who came in and has it memorized completely. I'm like, I like this person.
Yeah. You know, I like to say to actors that are in training programs or that are, you know, going to school, that's where you take it seriously. You know, you really need to soak in all the information that you can, so you have an instrument, a really specific instrument with which to work in this industry. But, you know, once you leave that program and once you graduate, please go have fun. Go have fun. Enjoy the marathon race. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs and you're going to plateau and you're going to want to feel like you're leaving the industry, or, you know, you're going to want to call up mom and dad and cry because you can't afford a meal, you know, but you gotta find the joy in this, because it's not an easy industry in which to be. You know, you gotta find your joys. And you know, my manager is one of my dearest friends now. I've been with him for about 8 years. And when I'm calling him with my neuroses, he's like, you have to find you. You know, the first couple years out of school, I was like, my career defines me. And if I'm not getting auditions, I'm miserable. And he's like, so, you know, what happens if you don't book work for 10, you know, years? So you're just going to be miserable for 10 years. You have to find how to be human still in this industry. We're not machines. You know, go out and have fun with your friends, go to brunch, get drunk, take naps, you know, go for walks, go to the museum, go on dates, fall in love. You know, those are the things that are going to define you. And then when you become kind of this whole person, right, you find that your career starts to catch up with you. There's this actor that I met years ago named Adam Mucci, Mucci, if anybody wants to check out Adam Mucci. Adam also trained with Maggie Flanagan, so he would come in and get coached. And we became pretty friendly while he would be waiting for Maggie. He would be chatting with me, and he said he went to the MFA program at Rutgers University, which is an incredible program. And he said, when I did my showcase, I was approached by an agent who said, listen, I love you. I want to work with you. But I want to be honest, you're not going to work for about 11 years. Flat out. You're going to have a decade of almost no work, or small gigs that are just going to give you a paycheck, not really take you anywhere. So if you're okay with that and you don't drive me nuts, I'll sign you. And Adam was like, whatever, I don't have anything to lose. And he said to me, he was like, Josh, no joke, 10 years later, I started booking major gigs. I mean, he was opposite Johnny Depp in Public Enemies, and he's been on incredible amount of TV shows. And, it was in Men in Black, not this current remake, but, the last one, Men in Black 8. I don't know, they've made so many Men in Black movies, I've lost track. But, I will never forget that story because, he has a family, he's got a wife, he's got a kid, or maybe he's got a couple kids. He lives in New Jersey, and he plays a certain role really, really well. It's usually a role in law enforcement. He said, he was like, if you're not having fun on this journey and you're just and you can't stop focusing on the end point, like the last leg of the race, which is the finish line, then you've shot yourself in the foot. You're going to limp into every single audition room, and it's going to be a disaster because you'll be a miserable person. You have to find the joy of life and find the joy of this career. And I think it was, directing helped me do that. Like I said, who knows? Directing could always be my one true calling. I have a dear friend with whom I work. He's a playwright, Matthew McLaughlin. Matthew is a emerging terrific playwright, and we both went to the same acting program, the same conservatory. And he and I were chatting one day because now he's finding more success in playwriting. I'm finding more success in directing. And he said, that's our journey. Maybe to get where we are today, we had to go the acting route. Maybe 10 years down the road, both of us will be established as playwrights and directors and still be able to act. But it's all the journey. And if you're not happy with your journey, you got nothing. You got nothing to share with the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's I like that you're talking about this because I myself have found the same exact thing. In general, like the different number of people that I've spoken with for these interviews and books that I've read and all kinds of different things, it seems to be fairly standard that if you're going to go into something as a freelancer, let's say, right, it's going to take you about 10 years, 10 to 15 years or so before you start seeing a different level of success and you really break through. And they say it takes 10,000 hours of practice before you become sort of like a master at something. And that, in general kind of equates to about 5 to 10 years, depending on how much time you spend on it. And it's after that point that you sort of start seeing the success that everyone is looking for. And really the people, like you're saying, who actually do reach that level are the ones who, stay happy and stay enjoying it and everything and keep in it. Because most people, they sort of go into it 5 years or something. And by that point, they're so oh, it's not working. And they don't understand that it takes 10 years, or 15
It's easy to get lost. Brian Dennehy did not gain momentum in his career until he was in his 40s. So, it's about the process. It's a marathon. I keep saying to myself, it's a marathon race. Lady Gaga often talks about that, that she, you always have to be ready to run the race. So the day you're called, you show up prepared, and people that kind of drop the ball. And if they're I'm not working, why? It's because if you're dropping the ball, you don't have the kind of methodology into making it, or you don't have the sequence of events in place to kind of launch you when you're ready. For actors, that could be, I probably should be going to the gym way more than I do. I don't at all, actually. But perfect example of if you're trying to be a leading man, chances are you're probably going to be shirtless in a role. So if you want that, it's as simple as that. You got to go to the gym. You've got to stay limber. You need to stay stretched. You need to stay. Your voice has to be in great shape. So you've got to take classes. It's all the game to get you physically prepared. Now I'm just, I'm in my mid 30s now. I was I don't need to go to the gym. I'll just play a bunch of dads. I'll be like the Phil Dunphy of, of Modern Family. But, it's important to know what you want, write your goals out, and take a look at that paper and say, what do I need to do to make this happen? And if it's a character actor, start exploring other character actors. If it's, if you want to be a vocalist, start studying with some incredible vocal instructors out there. If you want to be a film director, start, researching all the film directors that you connect to and that you love and watch all of their films. You have no excuse, especially now with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and YouTube and Blockbuster, may it rest in peace. But you have no excuse these days. The internet has become every person in every industry's best friend. Do the research, have you know, your Encyclopedia Britannica ready in your head to go, and you know, everything eventually will fall into place at some point. At some point.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to finish up?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've talked your ear off.
No.
Uh, you
Great.
know, it's important, like I said, to be a human and to check your neuroses. My some of my best relationships in this city are with people both in the business and outside the business, and we all have ups and downs in a career, and it's really important to just be a good human. Volunteer, right? Give back to the homeless. If you've got $1 on you and somebody looks like they need it, give them that dollar. I don't care if you can afford food or not. It's we have to be a community in this world. And when you check your neuroses, your friends will want to hang out with you more. Nobody wants to hear, I didn't book a job and I didn't get that audition and I didn't get called in, or oh my gosh, you know, like that was me in like 22 to 24. And my friends were like, nobody wants to hear this, boo boo. Like we just want to go, we're trying to enjoy a martini. And you constantly are talking about a failed audition. And it's like, you know, it's all a learning curve. We're all growing together on this planet and in this industry. So check your neuroses, check yourself, have fun, play dress up, learn how to walk in heels because you never know when you're going to need it. You know, I'm a perfect example of that. Learn how to put on some fake eyelashes and research. It's a really, really amazing industry. We in this entertainment industry, both you know, theater, film, television, music, symphonies, everything across the board. It's an honor and a pleasure to be doing what we're doing. And we have to, our legacy is to illuminate the legacy of everyone that's gone before us. And so it's a long line of really incredibly smart, intellectual, artistically powerful people. And, you know, do them an honor by being the best you can be.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Josh. This was amazing. It was very, very exciting to have the chance to talk to you. Really appreciate that you come to this with the perspective of a director, in addition to being an actor. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of really valuable information from this. So thanks so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. You all can find me on the Instagram, and you can find me Art of War Productions. My last name has 2 R's in it. So, you know, if anyone has any questions or want to stay connected, find me online, and let's create something one day together.
Awesome. Thanks.